What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 175 of Weighing In. I'm Marcus Hoehn, joined virtually via the magic wires of the internet with David Mirikitani. Dave, how's it going, buddy?
The interwebs, yes.
The interwebs.
Man, everything's good. Been doing my keto. I'm down 36 pounds from January.
You look like you're slimming down.
I'm trying to get the fish pucker face going. So I'm lucky. Like, I got a dad that cut my hair as a kid, so that kind of works out. But I saw you on social yesterday. Now the hair looks magnificent. Okay.
Hey, thanks.
Now I do believe that you got a haircut. For people that don't know, that don't follow, it was a little shaggier on the sides. Okay.
It was it was bad.
And clearly you're a man's man. You can grow that full beard and mustache, unlike me. But did you really cut it yourself or
100% myself? And I will. So, you probably can't see it, but there's like 3 little hairs back here I missed, and I got to go back today and catch them. And there's a story that I told in our online class last night. So I did 100% cut my own hair, but there is a catch. And the catch is I've had practice. So in college, my roommate was the team barber. So on Saturdays, Andrew Sherry.
Yeah, okay.
So Andrew Sherry was a 149 pounder for us. My roommate, he went to Pittsburgh Central Catholic, who's also the alma mater of Sir Vincenzo Joseph.
Yeah.
So we talked about that last night in practice, and Andrew would cut everybody's hair on Saturdays. They'd come over if it was a nice day. We'd go out in the yard, hang out, put on some music, maybe grill, and he would cut everybody's hair.
You rotate everybody in. Yeah.
Yeah. And
house tradition. It really is. Yeah.
And he always cut mine, and he would tell me, he would tell you what he was doing. He would teach you kind of while you're doing it. And then he would do his own. He would cut his own, right? Because there's nobody else there that knew how to cut the hair. So if he wanted it, he just cut it himself. And so he kind of taught me how to do it and what his tricks were for when you do it yourself, what you got to watch out for and things. Then after college, I moved to Kentucky. And I'm not talking anything bad about people from Kentucky. I love my time in Kentucky. I love everyone there. However, when I moved to a rural town in Kentucky, I can be a little bit vain about my hair, but I'm the only man in my family with hair, with a good head of hair still. Right.
Oh,
so,
really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of rare and it's coveted. I mean, my brother pretty much, he has all of his hair, but he doesn't really grow it out and he doesn't take as much pride in it as I do. So I value my hair, and I was not letting some barber in Kentucky give me a haircut. So I decided I was going to cut my own hair. And once I started doing it, I already knew how to do it. I spent 5 years cutting my own hair in Kentucky. So I did it a lot. So I've practiced.
It's a lot of money, man. So you look good. So.
Saves a lot of money. And also, I'm one of those people, and this might be weird, not saying this is the right way to think about things, but if I go to someone else and they mess my hair up, I'll stress and be upset about it for a while. If I cut my own hair and I mess my hair up, I'll be like, well, I tried.
Honestly, I think that's the mentality of a champion, right? You own your own stuff, and you set a certain level of excellence, and you expect other people to do things the same way. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know mine's for free, and if I can do it better than the person I'm paying, that's a problem, right?
Yeah, no doubt. So, but shout out to Andrew Sherry, and shout out to Ron Mirikitani for keeping me clean. So,
absolutely, he got you good.
He when I was a kid, he used to cut me and my brother's hair, and if you moved, he would just turn this. They were clippers, but he had scissors in his hand. I don't know why he ever had scissors. I realized he just would hit you with the butt end of it, with the circle.
I like to buzz it in the summertime, camp time, so I don't have to worry about fixing things and styling things. So, yeah, that's the hygiene and caretaking corner.
Grooming portion of the program, yeah. Let's get a little bit of wrestling stuff. Let's start out with Mitch Moore. I mentioned Mitch Moore went into the portal a couple of weeks ago, and he lands at Oklahoma University, which is obviously a good pickup for OU. It's an interesting move, though, right? Because they have Demas there. So it'll be obviously one of those guys is going up because they're not going down. They got Madrigal at 33, but one of those guys will go 49. They're both big move guys. It's funny because Lou Rosselli said this to me. He goes, so many guys are good at the X, Y's, and Z's, and they need help with their A, B's, and C's. He's got a couple guys there that actually applies to, where hey, like have a simple leg attack, just something where you can just, when you're down 30, 40 seconds left, you can get to a leg, create a scramble, and at least put yourself in a position to win the match. But they should score a lot of bonus points. They're both, Demas was seeded, I think, 5th at Nationals this year. So, and it was 4th the year before. That all these weight classes are going to be more loaded next year with all these guys coming back, especially around there with the Yannis and the Jay Nyermans of the world. But, Mitch Moore to OU is a good move for them, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good pickup for OU. It was kind of, I guess, I don't know what the right word. Every word that I think of is not really accurate because it kind of feel like has a negative connotation. I don't feel like it's a negative connotation. I guess surprising might be the best word. Like that, I didn't really see that one coming. That's not what I would have guessed as one of the top choices for him. But because of things you've already mentioned, Dom Demas.
I think that was the biggest one, because on this. But here's the thing: if Mitch Moore is really a 49-pounder, okay, and I'm just going to say he's the one going up because he's taller, but I don't know. Well, it makes all the sense in the world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has to be something like that. One of these guys was going up, and they knew he was going up. So then that's the move. But I'm pretty sure Demas is already redshirted. I guess the only other possibility which could happen is I think Demas. I don't know. I do some of the age group stuff. Technically, he might have an Olympic red shirt.
Yeah.
So it all gets sorted out, but good move for them. Joe Rao joins the Illinois RTC. Medlin sent me the press release on Friday, so shout out to Brian Medlin, who's been on my podcast. Really bright guy. Really interesting background. He's one of these guys that, wasn't, a 9-time world champ, but still is an amazing coach. Very technical, nerdy guy. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. Like, I consider myself a nerd. I think you're a nerd of the sport too. You try to pick out the details. And Rao is already sitting in the Olympic trial finals. In Greco, because if they qualified the weight, it's different in Greco than in freestyle. So he's at worst the Olympic alternate at the weight right now.
Right.
And and we're going to get into the finances of wrestling today, but when you can put somebody on the Olympic team, that really helps with your fundraising.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We've got a guy that at worst is the Olympic alternate right now. That goes a long way. And look, we need $100. We need $500. We need $1,000. I've been to at least one of the Illinois fundraisers earlier this year. Was up there for Beat the Streets, and then went over and coached Vinny Zerbin in a match where they did like a poker night, and it was cool. They're doing good things up there, and Medlin's a really bright mind. I think one of the more underrated coaches in the country. And Joe to Illinois RTC.
We had I'll give a shout out to myself. I'm gonna push my own content on our online classes that we're doing, and we posted this one on Facebook. Coach Medlin was one of our guest speakers and did a fantastic job. Brought up a lot of really good things, particularly if you're a parent of a youth wrestler or a youth wrestler. He talked a lot about the youth stuff and the development and his time overseas in Russia and things like that. So even his own kid, I guess his son, wrestled his real first competition actually over in Russia, which was kind of crazy. Yeah. They didn't plan on it. I guess it happened kind of – he was with him on the trip, and he's like – one of the guys was like, does he want to wrestle? And he was like, we hadn't planned on it, but I guess we can sign him up.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, so this is, we're going to see more of this movement right now. Like, this is the time we're going to see it. We talked about it with Gilman and some of these other moves. So, speaking of which, Hawkeye Wrestling Club girls, it looks like they're all going to end up going out to Arizona State / Sunkissed Kids / Mark Perry. And when I had Mark on a couple of weeks ago, he talked about that being a possibility. There was some, multiple interviews done by different sources where, the terms unlimited funding came up, and, they're not being cut. But, the bottom line is, however it happened, it looks like they're going to end up out there. And so, again, we're seeing more transitions in the RTC world. And, I think Arizona State, Sunkissed Kids, I just cannot I don't think I can articulate the amount of respect I have for Martori. Just he's a guy that's literally changed wrestling, changed the biggest names in the sport. Like, my Facebook memories popped up from like 3 or 4 years ago when I got to meet Art in person out in Vegas. And that was a few months after having done the podcast with him. And I told the story, but that was the most terrified of any podcast I've ever been. No disrespect to anybody else, but this guy's the godfather of wrestling. And, even like John Smith, I've known John for years. I actually wrestled, once with John and got my thumping, so it's a little different than sort of like talking to Moses, coming down from the mountain. So, but it's a, good to see those girls are going to get to stay together, and it'll be interesting. Obviously they have a comfort level with Mark, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think this whole situation kind of brought up something to me that has been more prevalent, I believe, in our society. Not this is not specific to wrestling, but just how when we move past things so quickly that whatever is said first generally is what most people hold on to, and that's kind of what I see in these situations, because I still don't really know what is really happened, I guess, and a lot of people really don't know what really happened. But if you get out first and you say your piece, that's what people are going to hold on to, whether it's true or not true. And that's not on any one side. I'm not insinuating anything towards either side on this. It's just, I think if I have any kind of takeaway, it's when you're in kind of a controversial situation, the most important thing is to get out and say your side early and say it loud.
Well, I don't know that it's the most important, but it seems like a lot of people approach it that way, right? I think you and I were talking off air before we started about journalistic integrity, about a couple stories that I've known about and you've known about, how we went through the proper steps to validate them. I think Andy Hamilton's one of the best in the business at doing that. He'd rather be second than be wrong, do any harm than good. Like the thing with Gable Stevenson, I remember talking to the ownership of Track Wrestling, and they said, we're not putting it on our page, and we don't want you talking about it. Except to mention these are just the facts. These are the charges. He hasn't, this kind of thing. So, and talk about journalistic integrity. One of the guys that comes up, if you're in anybody in Iowa, is Dan McCool, passed away. I never met Dan, but I know Hamilton knew him really well. And I think anybody who was anybody in Iowa knew him. Kind of, if you were a journalist, kind of had the career that you'd want, where he's interviewed anybody and everybody, was in the inner circle with the Brands and the Gables and the Harold Nichols of the world, where he was the guy that it was a privilege to be interviewed and written about by him. So we want to say RIP to him. Yeah, who will be missed. A very long time valuable contributor to the sport. And it's sad to hear. Well, back then it was different. I remember, you waited for amateur wrestling news to come out, and that kind of stuff. Like print journalism was a bigger deal. So, well, he was covering wrestling before covering wrestling was cool or had a platform of any kind of coolness, I guess you'd say. That immediate gratification, right? Like now, if you're providing content and covering wrestling, you can put stuff out, and within an hour, you're going to know if it was good or not, like if people liked it or not. And in what you're talking to, you write one of these articles and put it in Win Magazine, and it may not come out for 3 or 4 weeks or a month. And, you got to wait for people to write you letters. Yeah, like you put it in the newspaper, and you don't know, because, most of us, like, if I read stuff, I'm not even sure I hit like or, the heart where you just read, like, oh, that was a good point, and you move on to the next. Like you and I were talking about how we got a lot of retweets for the Alex Dieringer, on the show last. But, the thing is, I think everybody that retweets that probably watches and listens to us every week. They just, this was kind of, an extra special one, so they pushed it out. So, But anyway, so RIP to him. And, the sport of wrestling is losing a great one, and the Iowa wrestling community is really losing a great one. So, I think one of the next things to talk about is talk to several Division I coaches, and nothing is formal on this, but that with all this coronavirus and COVID stuff and everybody trying to save money, that there's a push that the NCAA might want them to go down to 12 dates a year. And for everybody, what is it currently at? I think it's 16. But it's going to change some things, right? Because one of the things you think about now, like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and the trend is less meets, right? Like you look at like Penn State's schedule this year, they took that month off in December basically to let anybody who wanted to get ready for the U.S. Open to do it. I don't know if they'll do that again this year, but the U.S. Open is probably going to happen in the same format because essentially now it's an Olympic year again. Iowa really only wrestled in the Midlands. I mean, they wrestled like in the Luther Open or something like that, but they didn't send most of their starters. And they're wrestling basically their conference schedule. And I think the trend that somebody was saying is, look, there's only so much tread on the tires, right? And the problem when you're going live in a match is the other person doesn't care about your health.
Yeah.
In the simplest of terms, like if I come up with you and we start sparring and I'm like, hey, I'm getting ready for the world jiu-jitsu championship. I just need a feel. You're just well, if we get in a weird position, we're probably both going to let go. I mean, you're my friend. I don't want to do anything to injure you. I'm about to compete. You don't want to injure me. And neither one of us are egomaniacs. Like neither one of us are going to go home and put on social media we beat the other guy. So we might be going hard, but at a point we're like, okay, there's a bigger thing than winning this go. Well, in a wrestling match, there isn't anything bigger than winning that go. Like that's the whole reason you're wrestling is to win that scenario position, win every position you can.
And your body is helping you do that by pumping additional adrenaline and other things that dull pain, that make you unaware of things that maybe you don't notice that you're hurt or in a bad position. You just push through it and power through it.
Yeah.
So,
and the mentality of it too is like this guy and I were talking about how drilling is here and live wrestling is here, and this play wrestling, which has become really popular, is somewhere in here, but it's almost basically like intelligent semi-live, right? Like it might be a better name than it's not as catchy as play wrestling, but you're like, okay, I'm going to work my way through this position. Okay, like Marcus, you're going to get me in this waterfall position, and we're going to work on if you go towards the leg, if you go away from the leg, if I grab your back ankle on the near side, back ankle on the far side, if I'm going to lock through the crotch, if I'm going to fall off to the near side, fall off to the far side, all these different things, and we're going to work through the iterations of it and work through your reaction, my reaction, your reaction, my reaction. Well, I think what coaches are learning is you can get more done doing that than by wrestling a bunch of dates and matches, because guys don't get worn down as much. Guys don't get injured. You get injured in practice, it's true, but it's a lot less likely. You can coach your guys like, hey, man, settle down. Marcus is just working his way through this position, David. Don't go nuts. So if this 12 dates a year thing happens, I think it's going to be hard I think a couple of things are going to happen, and it always works this way. Like the non-big schools are going to have a hard time getting matches with these big schools because, like if you're Iowa or Penn State or Ohio State, I'm just going to pick those three schools as an example because they've been consistently on the podium here. They're all in the Big Ten, so they're all going to have their Big Ten schedule. Now, they might say you can have 2 less duels that are required in the Big Ten and have 2 more dates, but that's probably going to, for Ohio State, that's probably Vegas. For Penn State, that's the Black Knight Open or Scuffle or wherever they decide to go. And for Iowa, it's Midland. So it's going to be harder for those schools that are like, the SIUEs of the world that are next to us, that are trying to get matchups against those guys to improve their PI, improve their seeding. Go ahead.
I think we'll probably, and I got kind of two layers to this. So the first layer is kind of the initial good idea. So I think you'll probably see more quads and tri duels. However, I feel like there's a negative that comes along with that. But I think we'll see more tri and quad duels. I think you'll probably see some like, let's say, I'm trying to think of proximity wise. Let's say SIUE. We'll say SIUE, Northern Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. Right, so Missouri and Illinois is the key, like the headline duel, right? That's the bigger 2 programs are going to meet each other. So I think we'll see something like you'll have this quad, that duel is televised, and then the other 3 probably will be locally televised via the internet or the university's live streams and things like that. The negative that I see is like from spectators. So I think duels are great because they're not a tournament. You don't have to go sit there for a whole hours on end to watch. But if we see more quads, I mean, it's going to take 4 hours to get through at least 3 duels probably. By the time you include an intermission after 57 or after the midway point, depending on what weight class you start at.
I think 4 hours is generous. Most duels are at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's just like you said, being generous. Like I'm saying, it's at least that, like a quick duel. And if you say that if we say like, okay, there's 2 bigger time programs and 2 smaller programs, once you include those smaller top tier programs, you're more likely to have a few opens and stuff too. So it might go a little quicker possibly, but yeah, most likely way longer than 4 hours. But that I think throws a little bit of a wrench in things as far as I believe there's a lot of momentum, or was a lot of momentum before this happened with dual meets and like attending dual meets and them being exciting and being watchable. And I think they still will be televised. But it's going to be a little harder for people to sit through 3 or 4 duels.
What they have to do, and this, I changed my mind on this, because I was a junior college coach for years. And in junior college, you go to these big tournaments, you try to wrestle the starters from Missouri. And from, when you were in Missouri, we had guys wrestling you, and our goal was for a guy, one of my guys to beat a guy like you, because then Missouri wants to recruit that kid, wrestling the Oklahoma States, wrestling the Illinois, wrestling the Oklahomas, wrestling the local school Iowas within our radius of St. Louis. But what they would do, and these tournaments did a good job, as soon as they could run you through, they ran you through so you could get home, because, we all had budgets and travel, and you don't want kids if kids can get home at 11 o'clock instead of 2 in the morning, that's better for their sleep patterns, overall health. Well, you're going to have to schedule duels. Like if it's a duel, a quad, you're going to have to go, the tournament, the first round's at 12, the second round's at 2:30, third round's at 5. And it's going to be televised at 5. And you have to create some filler material, maybe a couple little league matches or something in between, some exhibition matches, an RTC demonstration. You're going to have to do something, because then it becomes must-see TV. Like you and me did the play-by-play for Missouri versus Illinois this year. So it's a great example. And it was just a duel, not like just a duel, but 1-2-1 event. We knew it started at 7 o'clock, and we knew we needed to be there at 5 to do our prep. Well, if people are going to watch it, and that's the main duel in that scenario you're talking about, that's round 3. Well, people don't want to know, was it going to start at 3? Well, it depends how fast the first duel is going. No, it's starting at 5.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're right.
So they're going to have to understand that. And that's where coaches need to see the greater good, the bigger picture,
Do you think we could see more with that? And I don't even know if this is legal. I don't know if there's any rules on this, but an idea I had with your filler idea would be key matchups of red shirts. What if you had red shirts wrestle each other to just for nothing, exhibition to fill in that time?
Well, it's funny you say that. We're gonna put some red shirt matches together next year for the Missouri Border Brawl.
Oh, nice.
Like the big studs. Like you're the number 6 recruit in the country. I was the number 12, and you're at Full X, and you're at Missouri, and I'm at Iowa, and it's going to be a great match, right? And people, they have big social media followings and stuff like that, and those kids really haven't wrestled much all year. I think you could do that, but anyway, those are all those things, right? RTC, but I think people have to, people just have to understand that that's how it works. Like even the NCAA basketball Final Four, the first game starts at whatever time it starts, usually at like 5 o'clock Central Time, and the second game starts 34 minutes after the first game ends. That's how long they need to warm up. So you don't know exactly when the first game is going to end, because you don't know if it's overtime or whatever, but usually in basketball with all the TV timeouts, it's 2.5 hours. So you go, okay, second game is probably going to start about 8. We should probably be in front of the TV at about 7:30 just in case. But the first game starts at 5. The first game starts at 5. Like that, they're doing the walkouts then. So, but the 12 dates a year is going to change some things. And I thought about it, obviously, from a junior college perspective. It's going to make it even harder for like a junior college to go get in competitions with these D1s, because that was like the best way for our guys to get recruited, because if you only have 12 dates a year, you want all your matches to count for the seeding and ranking purposes, so you're not going to probably hit those as much. So that could be a significant landscape change in the sport of wrestling. So
do you think there's Any likelihood or promise of going with a national championship dual meet?
Say it again now.
Do you think there's any chance or likelihood of having some sort of national championship dual meet?
Give me 30 days and I'll answer that question.
All right. Remember, I said the question was, do you think there's a chance?
Well, sure. There's a chance I could lose 40 more pounds and dunk a basketball tomorrow too.
All right.
But yeah, so you're saying there's a chance. Okay.
You're saying there's a chance.
All right. So one of the things that I wanted, you and I always look for subjects, and it's been a pretty quiet week in the world of wrestling. So what's good about that is the last time was like that, we dug deep into the RTCs, and it was one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done. We get to break stuff down that not everyone else is talking about. So one of the things that you and I decided would be really good is to talk about this NCAA likeness ruling. Okay. So there's an article that's on ESPN. It says ESPN staff dated April 29, 2020. So I'm just going to read some of this to set the table for people so they understand. The NCAA's top governing body said that it supports a proposal to allow college athletes to sign endorsement contracts and receive payment for other work, provided that the schools they attend are not involved in any of the payments. A working group assembled to evaluate potential ways to modernize the NCAA rules about athletes making money from their names, images, and likenesses presented its recommendation to the Board of Governors. The recommendations included significant changes to the current restrictions, while also leaving room for the NCAA and schools to regulate the types of deals athletes might be allowed to sign in the future and the monetary value of individual contracts. Board chairperson Michael Drake said, quote, allowing promotions and third-party endorsements is uncharted territory, unquote. The news release said athletes will be allowed to appear in advertisements and can reference their sport in school, but they would not be allowed to use school logos or branding in these advertisements. So what does it all mean? And there's Jeff Borzello, Dan Murphy, and Tom Van Haren break it down. What's allowed and what's not allowed. The proposed changes open the door for athletes to sign endorsement deals from a wide variety of third-party companies. The changes would make it possible for athletes to monetize their social media channels, profit from writing a book or music album, host a sports camp, or start a business, among other potential opportunities. Athletes would be allowed to mention their status as a college athlete and the school they attend in advertising. The proposed changes do not allow schools to pay athletes directly or provide any assistance to athletes in setting up endorsements. Athletes would not be allowed to use any school-branded marks in advertising or wear clothing with school logos. The NCAA would also consider regulations that prohibit athletes from promoting products that don't line up with NCAA values, such as gambling websites or banned substances. Individual schools will also be allowed to make a list of products that don't match their values and say athletes are not allowed to endorse them. Can college athletes hire agents? The answer is yes. They can hire agents, professionals, accountants, financial advisors to help them with business opportunities, which makes I'm not going to get editorial yet. The specifics of athletes can hire these type of advisors, and what advisors will be allowed to do is still to be determined. Lee Steinberg, an NFL agent, said if you look at who the beneficiaries are for the one-and-done basketball player, by the time these kids get any brand, they're already in the pros. This will primarily impact quarterbacks or a major superstar. You can think of Johnny Manziel, Tua, or Jameis Winston, players who early in their careers established them. How will the NCAA determine what's fair market value for an endorsement and what's an impermissible extra benefit? The guardrails, quote unquote, surrounding any potential reform will be at the heart of the discussion. The NCAA wants to ensure that this is not disguised as pay for play, which means schools and conferences can't be involved and boosters are not using it for recruiting purposes. In its report, the NCAA essentially asked the various divisional governing bodies to come up with this by October 31st. So there's a lot more. They talk about the timing and everything else. They've mentioned that there's not going to be a football video game. And the big thing is, how is it going to impact recruiting? And there's several quotes from coaches that say, we're just not sure yet. So I'm a nerd about this stuff, so I'm going to go first.
Yeah, I have a lot to add, and I don't know that any of it's intelligent. So go ahead.
I'm sure it's all intelligent. This is going to change the game, okay? So right now, the big picture is this. Right now, sports are socialistic, where everybody's getting money from basically one or two sources, which is the football team and the college basketball tournament. And what people don't know is the NCAA doesn't make any money off the bowl game system. The college football teams pulled themselves out of the NCAA, created the BCS, and the money now doesn't go through the NCAA and then the schools. It goes straight to the conferences and then to the schools. So they're obviously getting more, if not all, of the money. Like, let's use two schools that don't have wrestling as an example, Alabama and Clemson. Okay, when they play in these big games in the Final Four, the semis, they get X amount of dollars. They get a big chunk of it, but the SEC for Alabama and the ACC for Clemson gets a significant chunk of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
To use other schools that are really good in football that have wrestling, Ohio State and Oklahoma University, the same thing applies, but the good news is some of that money hits the wrestling program because they have wrestling, okay?
Right.
But people get upset about football, and, people get upset that the backup kicker gets a full scholarship. And, in wrestling, you can be really good and be on a 50% scholarship. But the difference is 105,000 people are not piling in to watch a wrestling match. And they're not selling this for millions and millions of dollars on TV contracts. The Big Ten network, the SEC network, the ACC network, they're all built off the football games. And all these other sports get money. I talked to a Big Ten coach, and he told me the amount of money they get every year from the Big Ten network and how much they're going to lose if football doesn't start on time or be delayed, or if they lose it if they don't have it. So this is going to make things much different. To me, as an economics guy, I think it's awesome that kids can get paid what they deserve. Okay.
Yeah.
The backup kicker is not going to get any of this money because he was the backup kicker that nobody was fighting on trying to get him. But the number one quarterback in the country will be able to get more money. Now, here's where it gets super tricky, right? Like, let's pick two schools in a sport that don't have wrestling and it's not wrestling. Let's say you're a quarterback and you're talking about going to Washington or Washington State. University of Washington's in Seattle. The other one's in Pullman. And so they're both going to offer you the full ride. They're both going to offer you the cost of living adjustment. Both are in the Pac-12. They both play very similar schedules. Okay, and geographically, like, your mom and dad can probably see you pretty close to either one of those places, okay? It's not like you're in Florida or Washington, okay?
Right.
But if you go to Seattle, there's a lot more chances to get these endorsements, to get these outside contracts, because just by the sheer volume of people that are there.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is it'll make the sports cleaner. Okay, like you and me talked about, there's this big 2-hour special on HBO called The Scheme. And it's all this guy that was basically paying college coaches to pay these athletes. And the whole idea behind that was, hey, we're going to get Marcus $200,000 to play 1 year at XYZ school. And then when he goes pro, we're going to be his agent, and that's how we're going to recoup all of that.
Yeah.
Well, there is no pro in wrestling.
Correct.
But what can happen now is there's a bunch of ways to do this. I mean, like,
sure,
you can get person X, and I'm not going to say a school or a person because I'm not trying to insinuate anything about anyone in specifically.
Sure.
You can get, if right now you have a donor that's donate $50,000 a year to your program, and he's like, well, I own a car dealership, and I'd rather have Marcus, who doesn't have any more college eligibility, so I'm not saying anything bad about him. He can go, we'll have Marcus do all our commercials, and we'll pay him the $50,000 a year. Well, maybe that kid's going to want a full ride on top of it, but there's a pretty good chance you can probably get him to take a little bit less.
Yeah, for sure.
It really stretches your scholarships out. Now, if you think about that, who does that benefit the most? That benefits the people that have the most donors, which essentially are the schools that probably have the biggest RTCs, because they're the ones collecting the most money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we went through this whole RTC conversation and how they could use it for necessary living expenses, and then how that rule changed, but how no one's actually enforcing that rule. Well, now it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the only loophole is you can't connect these kids.
What do you mean you can't connect these?
The school is not allowed. I said in there that under the proposal, the school is not allowed to say, "Hey, you should call Marcus. He owns a car dealership. You should call David. He owns the biggest accounting firm in town. You should call. Andrew Sherry. He's got the best barber shop in town. Look what I. Okay, So but if you have an agent, the agent's going to know all these things.
Right. Yes.
And the school can tell the agent. There's no.
Right.
I mean, how are you going to prove they didn't tell the agent? Like, hey, make these 3 calls.
Well, I mean, if an agent, if he's doing that professionally, and after the first 365 days of this, it probably isn't going to need connected with anybody anymore. Like, everybody's going to know who they need to talk to, right? Like.
Yeah, but there might be like a new donor, right? Like every year,
sure.
These RTCs get a new donor, and they're like, here's the thing: most of the people donating to the RTCs want the college team to do well.
Yeah.
Like most of them would rather see Marcus Hoehn win a national championship from Mizzou than Marcus Hoehn be wrestling in the Olympic trials. Like people root for the laundry, and people hate that because it sounds less than intelligent, but people do. They root for the laundry. Like they root for the people wearing their uniforms. Like at Missouri, Ben Askren's not from Missouri. He's from Wisconsin, but he became embraced and loved by Missouri because he represented Missouri. And he talked about how great Missouri was. And he's not loved any less than Jaden Cox that grew up in Columbia.
Yeah.
And that's true at every school. Like these,
absolutely.
People at Penn State love Bo Nickel. They don't care that he grew up in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, he's as Penn State as Jason Nolf is, who grew up in Pennsylvania, as Vincenzo Joseph. So, same thing with Mark Hall, being from, he was in Kentucky and Apple Valley, but never lived in Pennsylvania. So those are some initial thoughts I have. I know you read up on the scheme and did some stuff like that. What are your thoughts about all this?
Yeah, to me, well, there's 2 main kind of thoughts that I wanted to address, and I don't really know. They're just kind of ideas to kind of explore. I don't know that I have a set agenda or argument to make on it or side to fall on. But one of the things is I just see that there's a lot of – I know that there's supposed to be safeguards in place. They're going to put things in place or rules or whatever if this happens. But to me, it just seems like a lot of room for abuse. And I don't know that that's necessarily a terrible thing. I mean, even because we were talking about the scheme, looking at the scheme, and one of the, the most poignant points of that whole documentary is that they really didn't break laws. Like, breaking NCAA rules is not breaking laws. It's not the same thing. And that's one thing I think to keep in mind, because sometimes we just automatically kind of default to that, like, oh, if you're breaking NCAA rules, you're going to get in trouble. And it's like with the NCAA, but, you're not, if you're not doing anything illegal, then the worst that you could do is not participate in the NCAA, which for the people we're talking about, like you said, is going to be a lot of people who really only need the NCAA for a very short amount of time. They don't, not very long. And once they make their name, then they don't really need the NCAA anymore, because they're going to go sign for somewhere and make $1 million and be able to make as much money as they want. My other part of this that I thought was, and I'm going to push back a little bit on something you said, and I feel like we don't argue very often.
That's good stuff.
We don't debate and disagree too much, but this is something I see is like, I think that a lot of people are saying, well, for most kids, it's not really going to matter. But I think that is a little short-sighted, in that I think it's assuming that if you're not able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, then it won't really matter. But to me, like, I was entrepreneurial enough that I created that Ben's first T-shirt, and we tried to sell it, and we had to technically wait because of NCAA rules. We had to wait till after he finished his finals match at NCAA's to start selling the shirts.
Yeah, I remember
his senior year. And we made some good money on those shirts, and like, to me, I don't think that there's just opening for those athletes. There's opening for the more creative people to show their strengths and help the guys on their team who have the name. And you can partner up and pull your strengths together and pull this guy's clout, if you will, and this guy's ingenuity, and they can kind of do things. And then the other thing is just using, like you said, root for their laundry. Like if I leave my university, okay, let's just use me as an example, because I feel like I fall into the good realm where I was not a name, right? Like nationally, there wasn't people like going, oh, Marcus Hoehn, Marcus Hoehn. But I was good enough and in the lineup enough that the Missouri fans knew who I was, right? And they may not know too much about me. They may not be a diehard fan. But the difference is if I have a good business idea or I know what business I'm going to go into after college, I can start building followers and people to push my business before I lose that audience. Because once I leave the university, as much good comes from, like you said, root for the laundry. Once I ain't wearing that shirt no more, there's not very many people paying attention to me. They don't really care as much. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that's the reality of the world. You only have so much bandwidth.
Yeah.
So I think that leveraging for the long term is a huge opportunity for a lot of these athletes, even if they don't plan on being professionals in their sport. I mean, if they're going to go into real estate, like think about how beneficial that could be to build a client list before you leave your school and open your real estate business, right? Or even start your real estate business while you're in school and just dabble and start to learn a little bit and apply what you're learning.
Example, because you don't need a college degree. You just have to pass the test. Yeah. And I don't think when you say you're pushing back, you're not saying anything I disagree with. I think you just other interesting points. Like, I remember you guys doing all these super funny videos, like in hotels and stuff like that. You guys could, nothing bad, just funny things.
No, yeah. Yep.
But now I think like, man, you guys could have a YouTube channel and
100%. I've thought of that many times.
If people would pay $4.99 a month, we're going to spread this out over these guys, and it's going to support our academic careers at University of Missouri Columbia. Like, and people would do that. Like, hey, it's entertaining, it's funny, and we can support our guys. And you probably would get a ton of support, like you said, from people within St. Louis, Kansas City, Missouri area. You're not.
Yeah.
People in Wyoming aren't going to probably pay for that. Unless they just are purely entertained. But even then, they're like, well, that guy's going to wrestle Wyoming guy at National, so I'm not going to pay him. Mm-hmm. The Missouri people will, for sure. There's a couple things that kind of came up. I wrote a couple things down as you're talking. First of all, people need to understand there's a huge economic disparity between the people making the rules and the people that have to live by the rules. Okay? It's socioeconomic. It's also race. The people making the rules are all white guys, and most of the athletes in the revenue sports are young black guys. Mm-hmm. So, you can say whatever you want about it. That's just the truth. If you take the percentage of African Americans that play football and play basketball versus the percentage of African Americans that are on the NCAA deciding committee, it's close. It's way more than 50% at the bottom, and it's way less than 50% at the top. Okay? Then the next thing is this. The NCAA is loosening the rules. All these are loosening the rules because, one, they saw what happened with football. Football's like, this is stupid. Your rules are stupid. We're just going to take our ball and go home.
Yeah.
Okay? So they're like, look, we're not going to argue about this, not argue about that. So that's a big thing. And then the other thing is all the rules are designed for football and men's basketball. They're not designed for wrestling. There's just 25 other sports that have to fall under these rules that they're making for these two sports. So like lacrosse and wrestling and swimming and baseball and soccer and, every other non-revenue sport. Okay. No disrespect to any of the ones I didn't name, volleyball, whatever. Like, they're just now have to follow these rule changes that really aren't designed for volleyball. They really aren't designed for wrestling.
Yes.
Designed for football and for basketball. And the other thing that people need to understand is in football, there's 85 scholarships. Now, there's a lot more than 22 guys that play. There's 11 on offense, 11 on defense. You got a punter and a kicker, but they substitute a lot. Okay. But you basically got double the number of you can recruit 2 deep at every position. Okay. Basketball, I think, has 12 or 14 scholarships and 5 guys start. So you're looking at 2.4 to 2.8x of your starters. Wrestling, 10 starters, 9.9. 1x, basically. Okay? Yeah. But you can't give 10 guys a full ride. We know how that works.
Right.
The only place that can do that is like an American University or Northwestern because it's so expensive and their school understands they're not going to hit the same roster numbers. Okay,
Right.
again, that cuts down the profitability of the program. They want you to use 9.9 scholarships and have 35 guys on the team, not 18.
Yes.
Because there's 17 more guys paying full freight in that case.
Yes.
Okay, and if it costs $60,000 a year to go to one of those schools, which it probably does, that's $1 million. That's $1 million difference. Okay,
Yes.
and anybody that thinks this isn't all about the money doesn't understand the world.
Yeah, and that's it. And what I was going to add on to that is people only follow rules if the people making the rules are viewed as beneficial or necessary to the people following the rules. And once you become, or once you place yourself as you're no longer helping the people you're enforcing rules for, they're not going to follow the rules anymore. And I think I hope that that's not where we're going with this coronavirus situation, but that's kind of a similar feel. It's like, I'm going to follow the rules, and with the NCAA, and like you said with the football, is like, I'm going to follow your rules until the point where I feel like you're hurting me. Like, it's no longer benefiting me to follow your rules anymore. I'm going to go do my own thing, because all the benefit you added has now been negated by all the rules now that I don't like, that have added restrictions to me that keep me from being able to make money for my school, to make money for myself. And so then that's when you see people with the dissent, and they go, we don't need it. We'll go come up with our own thing.
Yeah, and it's not that complicated. Like, how to figure some of this stuff out isn't that complicated. Like, I'm a business guy. Like, we're working on a project now that's significant. We talked to like 4 smart guys, have a couple conference calls. Like,
oh my gosh,
the reason why it's not so complicated is because there's so much revenue that you can hire somebody to do this, that, and you're paying less than if it flows through organization X.
Right.
So it's kind of like people going, oh, I'll give you an example. Mike Powell wanted to put together Beat the Street Chicago. And he wanted teams. I called Dave Bell at Bergen Catholic. They were in. Once Dave Bell's in and Bergen Catholic's in, it's a lot easier to, he was friends with Mike Palazzo. He was friends with a couple of other, with Izzy. And then, so we got to 5 the first year. We wanted to add 3 schools. I'm friends with the guys at Broken Arrow. I'm friends with the guys at Liberty. Like, we got schools very quickly. Same thing with Tuttle. I made 3 phone calls. Tuttle moved their whole tournament a weekend so they could come to Beat the Street Chicago. Like, some of this stuff's not rocket science. It's working hard and networking and knowing the right people. It's kind of like getting Alex Dieringer on the show. It's kind of like some of the people you've had as guest clinicians and things like that over the years. It's like, they know you, they respect you. So, I mean, what people need to understand is, and there's a whole nother conversation, but we're almost an hour in, and I don't, but the NBA, and maybe we'll tell me this next week, they're coming up with this G League, where now these guys can go straight from high school to this G League. Basically, it's like a Hold'em year, because the rule says you can't go straight to the NBA out of high school. That was the old LeBron rule, okay? But there's a lot of these guys that aren't student athletes, right? Like, they don't want to go to school. They're not going to go through the facade of it. They can pass 12 hours in the fall. And actually, in D1, you can have 6 hours of F and 6 hours of A, and you're eligible. 2.0 and have taken 12 hours. So, and then in the spring, they can just be in classes, and as long as their teachers don't drop them before April, they're fine. Okay? So, and I'm talking about basketball because it's a 2-semester sport.
Sure.
Football, you just got to pass whatever you pass, and then in the spring, you get it figured out and reload. But this is going to change things so much, because the rich are going to get richer, because the portal is going to become more and more active. Because if you're at school X, you're at the University of Washington, okay? You're at the University of Washington because they don't have wrestling. And I'm at school Y, I'm at Washington State, and I'm like, man, like, I can't take my girlfriend out on the weekend. Like, bro, you need to transfer here. We got a guy that'll pay you $20,000 a year to do 3 TV ads for his car dealership.
Yeah.
That's legal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that if these rules pass.
Well, something else that I thought about was even a scenario like that, introducing a third person. So what happens if a booster, let's say, we'll just say Johnny Wrestler is the number 1 recruit in the country, okay? And I am Marcus Hoehn, and I own a car dealership, all right? Dave Mirikitani, you are the booster of Mirikitani University. Yeah. And you're a huge booster of the wrestling program.
Yeah.
You come to me and you say, hey man, I got a business and I'll switch all my cars.
What's going to happen?
I'll buy all my cars from you if you will hire him and I'll pay over market value for my cars to give you profit room to spend them extra money to give him more money to be the spokesperson.
It can be as simple as this. I go, Marcus, I want you to go give Johnny a $50,000 a year TV contract. I'm going to pay you $75,000.
Yeah. Why would I not do that?
Right. You make $25,000 to have some college schmuck.
And probably more because I have a legit spokesperson that has a real name.
Yeah. Right. Like, look, the ads aren't going to hurt you, right? Unless he gets
Not at all.
Well, I mean, unless he gets
Sure.
But at the time, the ads aren't going to hurt you. You put in the contract, like, hey, it's got to have certain behavioral clauses, or else, you don't have to keep running the.
But some people would argue locally like that it really isn't the end of the world either. Like publicity, good publicity is good publicity. If they know your name, once it blows over, the name sticks. But yeah, you're right. If
he gets a murder charge, we can delete the ad.
Well, yeah, then
we'll
then
pick something obviously. But the point is the same. Your point is really well taken, which is, look, there's all these different ways to do it. Here's the difference. It's just going to be out in the open now.
Yeah.
I mean, there was stories in the 80s where, like, football players were getting paid like $1,000 a week to turn the lights on and off in the swimming pool at night. Yeah.
I had a situation similar to that with myself, and I'm not throwing myself under the bus because it was not as egregious as that at all. This is just, no one else was in on this. So this was not like constructed in any way, but like you're given work study, right? And like for me, I was assigned work study for cleaning the wrestling facility. So I mop the mats. How long do you think it really takes somebody to mop the mats? And then you just piddle around the wrestling room, do a workout, find some other things to do.
But here's the difference. You probably made $8 an hour.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a big deal what I'm talking about, but it's the same idea.
No, but you actually did mop the mats. So
right.
There's two things about that make it a lot more legitimate, right?
But the person did flip the lights on. Now, should someone get paid for flipping the lights on? That's debatable. But they did the job.
Yeah. So I think people need to understand that there's going to be, like, people in other sources have always said, oh, this guy just went to this other school and took less money. Like, that's not true. That's rarely been the case. There's always these other loopholes we've talked about with RTC money and these other things. And it might be the same thing where a booster just paid. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Now it's just going to be obvious. It's like, oh, Marcus transferred from Missouri to the University of Washington. Again, we're going to use them because they don't have a wrestling team. So, and the next thing you know, Marcus is pushing Mirikitani's used cars up there in Seattle. Like, aha. But you're not going to even have to wait. You're just going to know that's what's coming. That's what makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, depending on obviously what pops up in the world of wrestling, we may dig into this more next week. But I mean, this is huge. Like, I'm not sure people get how big this is if this passes, and it's going to pass, because here's what's going to happen if some version of it doesn't pass. These schools, there's like 50, 60 schools that are really good in basketball, right? And, we can all name them. Duke. I mean, I know North Carolina was terrible this year, but they're normally good. Like Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas, these schools. And shockingly, a lot of these schools were in that HBO series, The Scheme, okay? But these schools are just going to go, why do we have this $3 billion contract for our tournament? And then the NCAA takes a massive cut of it, and they give us what they think we deserve. We can go negotiate a deal with CBS. We can go negotiate a deal with NBC or whoever. And we don't even have to get as much because we're not sharing it with, there's nobody taking a cut at the top.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the NCAA's got to hang on to their cut.
Yeah.
So they're going to make the rules. This is the analogy I was talking to somebody one day. I go, this would be like if you have a teenage son or daughter and she or he makes more money than you do. And like they're paying the bills. Like your daughter's paying the bills, right? Like, she's some entrepreneur and she's 16. She's going to be like, Dad, don't talk to me about curfew.
Right.
I put a roof over your head.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, your daughter's like 2 or 3, so it's a long way, I mean, it's like.
No, but no, you're right. It's just, it just seems that I just put myself in that scenario, and it seemed like that would be a very uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah. I mean, because literally with money comes power.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure most parents have had a conversation with their kid at one point. You live under my roof, you live by my rules. Well, the reason why is because you're paying for the roof.
Yeah.
And the walls, and the running water, and the food, and everything else. If you're not paying for it, if she is, or he is, you're like, yeah, Dad, next argument, please. Something actually coherent that is applicable to our situation. Yeah. So I think you're going to see, I think they're going to take less, and I think they're going to allow more stuff to happen. And so people need to be ready for that. And if you're a kid, like, you were a very entrepreneurial guy. Like you said, you're a good wrestler, but you weren't Mark Hall coming out of high school. You weren't Dayton Fix coming out of high school. I mean, no disrespect. That's just the facts.
None taken.
But you could make money. You probably were more entrepreneurial than those guys. I shouldn't say that, I don't know, but like.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
But chase this stuff down more. If for no other reason, because you need to. Because you're not going to get the car contract. You're not going to get.
Well, that's what wrestling taught me, was that I was not as gifted as some of these other guys. And if I'm going to win, it's going to have to be different than what they're doing. And that's kind of the approach that I took when we thought of this situation. It's like, okay, well, I'm not the guy that just makes a t-shirt and puts my face on it and sells it, because nobody's going to buy that. But I might be the guy who designs the t-shirt for the guy whose face is recognizable, and decide how we can go about selling it and what I think would work.
You're so smart. You know what you'd have done? You'd have made a deal with all the best guys around the country and made t-shirts for all of them.
There you go. We'd have had a whole series.
That's what you'd have done. And those guys would have got a big cut of it, and you would have got a cut of it. And then you're the guy, when you graduate, you're the sports marketing guy. Yeah. And now all these guys, you can already list them as your clients when you're 22 years old. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. That's what it's frustrating, because that's what I think a lot of people, they look past, especially wrestlers, right? Because most wrestlers don't wrestle at a Division I school. Most wrestlers that do wrestle at a Division I school, no one knows their name. Yeah. So like, most people looking at this, they're in the wrestling community, are going like, well, whatever. I missed out, but it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't have made any money. It's like, yeah, but I think you're just not thinking about it right. I think there's a lot of opportunity within this that people are not thinking about. And with that, and that opportunity is pretty much the exact same as what we were saying earlier, which is the room for abuse. Those are both the same thing. There's a lot of opportunity within it. It's opportunity to do good, or opportunity to, sway things. I mean, it just depends on who you are, whether you call it good or bad, right? Whether it's good or bad for you, or whether you think it's right or wrong.
You got to look at it legitimately too. Like Spencer Lee won the Sullivan Award, was the co-winner, and he won the Hodge, right? So in Iowa City is a city that is crazy about wrestling, right? Like, so if you're Spencer Lee, there's legitimate companies that want you as a spokesperson. Okay. Like, they would just, and
how about this? Sorry, I had this epiphany. You go on. I'll finish in a minute.
No, I'll write down Spencer Lee. Go ahead.
So I just had this amazing idea. So if this was able to do now, this is a great example of something you could do right now if this was legal. You could challenge someone as, like, Spencer Lee could go on social media and go, I am the BMF of the year belt holder, right? And like, he could make a whole t-shirt and line of clothing around the acclaimed wrestler of the year, right? And he really was, because of the Hodge, we would agree to that. But what he could call it whatever he wanted, and put his face all over everything, sell bobbleheads, and everyone would buy the crap out of it, not because it's Spencer Lee. Like, there's going to be somebody else do the same thing next year. The difference is, this is the year that NCAAs were canceled. Like, this is a collector's year. Like, if you could do it now, you could kill it, because people would buy it just because they want the year that this happened, right?
Sure. But even the years when that's brilliant. But the years that wrestling is around, okay, so like, let's say that all these guys won the Nationals and Spencer Lee won the Nationals and he majored or teched everybody. He's probably going to win the Hodge. So he can go, hey, pound for pound. He maybe, like, let's use a PG title, you know, PFP, pound for pound title belt. Okay?
There you go.
Okay. But then it's the same thing. Like, hey, who wants to see me, you know, who wants to see somebody challenge for my belt, you know, and like they do some exhibition match and, you know, maybe it's a 157 pounder, but they do like pull-ups or, you know, and it's some pay-per-view thing and they make money. Like, and it goes to what I was going to say about Spencer Lee, which is they're just legitimate businesses that would want him as a spokesperson. I've met Spencer Lee twice. He could not have been more respectful. He's the kind of kid that you want as the face of your program, certainly the face of your business. He's articulate. He's well-spoken. He believes in team first. He believes in all the stuff that you want people to believe in. So we're talking about the shadowy side of it, but it's good because there's a lot of people, you know, that there's going to be legitimate opportunities for these kids. And it might be the backup kicker. It might be the backup 141 pounder to you. But this guy, he partners with you on the t-shirt idea, and you guys don't graduate with as many student loans. It's not about getting rich. It's about not being broke for a lot of kids like yours.
Exactly.
There's both
that's
sides.
what I think a lot of people miss is they look at it as like, if I can't make a bunch of money, then it's not worth it. And it's like, well, that's not a very good way of thinking, right? Because I think a wise businessman once said to me, if you worry about the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing, like you were making those videos and you were making those t-shirts. You were doing it anyway, right? You know, you're probably making those videos and the whole time you're like, look, man, I'm not thinking about I got to go cut weight later. You know, like
yeah.
Honestly, right?
It's a distraction.
It's like why we listen to music when we work out and things like that. So if you can profit from it in any way, and it's a completely win-win, right? Only people pay for it that want it, right? You know, and people are paying for the content and they're supporting you. They're supporting the program. You know, what you're going to see too is RTCs are going to start putting this stuff out.
Yeah.
They might pay the guys, like if the RTC comes up with the idea, they have the ingenuity, they have the entrepreneurship, they can go, let's put these kids in the videos and pay them.
Yeah, that's one a question I had is, you know, when they come out with the list of things, because in the article it alludes to products in which they don't have what was the word they use? I'm trying to be effective here. Don't align with their values, I believe.
Well, in other words,
something like that.
Yeah, like not gonna be selling cigarettes and stuff like
that.
But
question I had was, what about like conflicts of interest or things like that? Because I know that there's issues with like me running a wrestling academy, right? And like, will I be able to use a current person in the NCAA as a spokesperson for TWA? Like, say one of my kids who wrestles for me now goes on to get a big scholarship and be a big name. Can I pay them to be like, say, hey, you know, Thoroughbred Wrestling Academy camps in the summertime, this is where you need to be, this is where I went, this is what I did, and I can pay that kid money, and he doesn't even have to come work the camp. He can just put up a video.
Like Nick Lee.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And
let's pick a real guy with a big profile from a big program, right? And that's a perfect example, okay? Because Penn State is not doing anything to connect Nick Lee to Marcus Hoehn, right? Like they have, you know, they might not even you guys know each other, right?
Correct.
But you know Nick Lee. I mean, Nick Lee's dad's quote is on your website. Okay, you don't just know him, you coached him, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you have a real relationship as a coach, as a mentor, as someone that improved his wrestling, which is directly correlated to what you do for a living, okay? So if this all gets passed, I mean, unless TWA somehow falls outside the guardrails of what's, you know, socially acceptable, which is ridiculous, right?
Right.
You know, like unless you got like, you know, the camel Joe Cool smoking a cigarette on your logo, I think it's going to be fine, or like a booze in its hand, then you're going to be able to do that. And like you said, maybe you don't have to fly Nick Lee in to do a commercial. Maybe he just shoots it. Like you send him some TWA shirts, right?
Yep.
Maybe he does a Zoom thing for you once a week. Like that's all. Yeah. All this stuff is going to be crazy, but we're going to be inundated with more and more stuff. People are going to be able to use wrestling more and more as a way to make money. People are going to have to get smarter and smarter. People are going to have to evolve because they're going to get passed.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And what you're going to see, I think, is two things. I think you'll see the rich get richer, but I think you're going to see some smaller school that doesn't have a lot of money right now that's brilliant on the marketing side. It's going to create a whole new revenue stream that then in turn is going to allow them to recruit better kids, which then in turn is going to make them a better wrestling team.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You can't win a horse race with a bunch of Clydesdales.
Correct.
Like, there's a reason why all these schools that are winning seem to have great recruiting classes. They might be really good coaches, but they're not developing some guy that almost placed at state as a senior and turned him into national champions. It's not happening. Right. They're recruiting hammers and just
you're right. Yeah,
keeping them on the hammer path.
Absolutely. You got to keep it moving forward, and if you get the best kids, you're going to gain a lot more ground if you just keep a kid for moving forward that's already covered a lot of ground before you ever got it. And
for sure.
I've got to run out of here. But guess what? I've been thinking about this awesome segue. So let's hear from Pure and Clean and everybody else's A-list celebrity spokesperson, Dave Mirikitani.
That's funny. We're brought to you by Resolite, your one source for both classic and lightweight mats. Resolite Zip Mat is the first and only tape-free mat to offer a waterproof interlocking connection system. Their exclusive Digiprint mat is the only fully customizable mat featuring unlimited graphics that brings unrivaled school branding to your new lightweight mat. Go to Resolite.com for all your wrestling mat needs. Visit Resolite, the mat company. Pure and Clean sports products are designed to help dominate skin issues. It does not cause skin burns. It doesn't expose your athletes to harsh chemicals. Read the label, check the safety data sheet, and keep your wrestlers on the mat. I actually spoke with Ryan the other day, and he was talking about how, reading their safety data sheet, everything. So go to pureandcleansports.com, order a wrestling team bundle today. Last guy I spoke to this week was George Ivanoff from Grit, ttpnutrition.com. And he said, like a lot of people, like business is slow right now. So I know everybody's money is tight, but if you think you're training, a lot of people are home training at home, Grit's going to help you with that. It's going to help your endurance, going to help your muscle fatigue, help your recovery. George is a great guy. He's an Olympian. He's the chairman from Nebraska Wrestling. So if you can help out and help yourself, go to ttpnutrition.com and get some Grit. I know you got a bounce, man. I know you're doing big things. We'll talk next week. And we might get more into this stuff depending on what else is going on. So thanks, everybody, for watching and listening.